Like all of the work of the Harvard Negotiation Project, the Difficult Conversations framework really was an attempt to explain and codify what we'd learned in coaching people to deal with real problems. The fundamental thing that's different about it is that it doesn't focus on what it is you need to do differently. It focuses on how you need to think differently in order to do things that will produce a different result.
In order to be able to really improve your company's bottom line results, you have to be able to and willing to talk about the most critical issues that the company is facing.
This is the missing link in getting almost any significant change done in business today. And I think the reason is that implementation in every case involves people with strongly divergent views about what's going on and what ought to happen, and a sense of very high stakes for them personally in terms of the outcome, not having the skills to turn that conflict into some kind of productive, integrative, breakthrough thinking about what the real answer is. And I think the skills of transforming difficult conversations into productive learning conversations are this absolutely fundamental skill that is needed at whatever level of the organization you're at, trying to translate the company's strategy into successful business results.
This course is not to make you nicer people. If you end up showing up in the world as a nicer person at the end of this course, fine. But our purpose here really is, if you can engage in these difficult conversations in a more productive way and not avoid the ones that really need to happen, we are certain that you can actually have better business results, that you can have more creative conversations, that you can get to problem solving quicker, more effectively.
Our Difficult Conversations workshop is helpful to employees at every level of an organization. We think about difficult conversations as a fundamental skill that people need to get anything done in an organization. So before people are expected to problem solve and decision make and drive projects and meet deadlines, we believe that it's extraordinarily helpful and can significantly impact productivity, bottom line results, if folks are able to communicate about things that are challenging.
A lot of the training that I go to is, very basic. Here, kind of here's a template, and they don't really get down to the nitty-gritty, kind of the inner workings of a conversation. So I thought that the depth to which the Vantage program really delved into the whole idea of difficult conversations was very rich, and I think that really made it a program above and beyond a lot of the other ones that I've seen out there.
We've actually spent a lot of time thinking about and playing with the structure of the Difficult Conversations workshop. We have found that we start by looking at the question of behavior. What are people doing and saying in the conversation? We start there because it's the most accessible thing for participants.
At any given time in a conversation, there's one of three things happening. The first thing is advocacy. It's just stating your point of view, getting information across, sharing information. Another thing is inquiry, and that's asking questions, trying to find out what the other person is thinking. And then the third thing that could be happening is acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is demonstrating to the other person that you heard and understood them.
I start to build what I'm going to call my ladder of inference, my reasoning path, right? That's going to lead me to a particular conclusion. I look at this data, and this is why we call it a ladder. I add some rungs of reasoning and interpretation, right? Based on past experiences, as you said, is it kind of experiential thinking? Is it things that I'm just remembering or recollecting from the past? Or am I applying specific frameworks based on the discipline that I bring to the table from marketing or sales or product development or whatever it might be, right? And kind of what happens when I take data, I add reasoning and interpretation? What do I get at the top of my ladder? I get a conclusion, right? I get a conclusion. And it is on the basis of that conclusion that I say, hey, Tanya, here's what I think the right answer is. Let's take some action. At the end of the day, we're not only talking about great answers through effective advocacy and inquiry, we're talking about answers which are executable in your organization.
Once we kind of get that under people's belts, we then turn to what is sometimes the more subtle and harder parts of the conversation to detect, which are sort of the underlying patterns of what people are thinking about in the conversation.
What's most important is, what are you thinking? And how are you thinking about it? And how does one learn to negotiate with themselves to take you from your initial reaction, which may be a little bit toxic and problematic, to a more productive place, so that when you do open your mouth, even if you're not skilled at the particular words, the genuine meaning that's going to leak through and come through is a productive one.
What's actually going on in your head? And we're going to call that your internal frame or your internal voice.
Our internal voice shows up in 3 different ways, over and over again, for all of us. 3 specific buckets it falls into. The first bucket is thinking about what happened in the conversation. The next bucket has to do with feelings. As I said, difficult conversations and difficult situations are filled with emotions. The third bucket has to do with our identity. In difficult conversations, our identity feels challenged. We feel like our self-image is being attacked.
Well, I think a lot of the other communication courses that are out there are a lot more ethereal or conceptual. I think what makes the Vantage Partners course so significantly different are all of the exercises and the practical examples that they provide. It makes it very real for the individual.
We do a fair amount of using personal case templates, so people are using their own personal examples. They're putting the skills and tools up against those examples, really testing out whether the material will work for them in their context. We use client-specific scenarios. We do in front of the room role-playing and fishbowling, as well as work in dyads, triads, small groups. We do large group discussions and debriefs of cases.
Anybody else with a learning about the absent party?
You can understand more about the intent, how that plays a part of it, because it's not usually their intention to not do what you need done or whatever the case might be. It might just be that they're looking at it from a different perspective. So looking at their perspective sometimes helps you in understanding how to deal with the situation better.
Absolutely right. Of course, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Because if you did this exercise and you had fun today, but when you go back, you have conversations exactly the way you did have them, then you could say your time was not well spent. So what can you incorporate from this exercise to your upcoming difficult conversation?
Everyone walks away from that particular exercise saying, I never thought about the issue from their perspective. And that usually opens up a number of ways to solve whatever the issue is.
I've been having this difficult conversation over and over and over with the same person. What's going wrong? I don't know what to do. And after taking this course, I came out of it with skills that I want to apply so that I can better these relationships.
I think the importance of this training is that it really can go to the bottom line for companies in terms of productivity and outcomes and output, and hopefully reduce the amount of internal time spent dealing with some of the complications around having difficult conversations.
You know, that's the real hit of the whole thing, is that not every conversation is going to go well, and you really kind of have to know what to do and how to react in circumstances where it doesn't seem to be going well to get the thing back on track.
People don't know how to have productive, difficult conversations, and that is the problem that Vantage Partners, across its corporate education, its consulting, its technology businesses, is specifically focused on. When they have different ideas about what to do, does that become, a sinkhole of cost and time, or does conflict actually become ultimately an engine for innovation, for growth, for new insight, for new excitement, for new motivation? That's the potential. And we've seen clients begin to achieve that, and it is really a breakthrough experience.